Whoa. Whoa, what's that?
Alright. So, it might not be everybody's idea of a fancy disco setup, but what you see in front of you is just a simple selection of lighting and smoke products, and in a moment we'll be putting it all together and showing you exactly how to physically connect your devices together. But first we'll introduce the fixtures one by one. There's the Freekie controller, a Mac 300 moving head, a pair of scanners, the MX4s, another moving head, the Mac 250. The Freekie has an easy smoke control interface, so naturally we have a smoke machine. And as you'll see shortly, there's strobe control too. And power cables. No power, no fun. For the Freekie to control these devices, it needs a means of communication, and that is the data cable shown here. This is an opto splitter. We'll not go into details with it right now, but now you've seen it, and we'll discuss it briefly later. These here are the converter cables used to convert between different data cable plugs. Generally there are two different plugs, 3-pin plugs and 5-pin plugs. They mix together via converters like these. And last, but certainly not least, the terminator. For now, suffice it to say that you should never forget to have one of these. They could solve potential problems, and we'll discuss these later in the session. So now you've seen all the components of a basic lighting system, it's time to connect them. We start by connecting the power to the opto splitter and to the Freekie controller. See the little green LED light up? That means the power's on. As we mentioned earlier, the Freekie is a low voltage unit, so we'll have to first plug in the 9-volt power supply and then connect the power supply to the mains. We won't attach the power to the lights and smoke machine until we've connected the data cables. Again, you'll find out why in a moment. Okay, now we can begin connecting the data cables. You'll notice that the Freekie features both kind of plugs, 3-pin and 5-pin plugs. We'll be using the 3-pin, which is the most common, but you're not allowed to use both at the same time. If you do, you will die screaming in his car. The other end, we plug into the opto splitter. By doing this, we actually have the data signals from the Freekie replicated onto the 5 connectors, circled in red. There are numerous reasons for using a splitter which we will not cover in detail. Let's just say that it's good practice to always start your data cabling with a splitter. More information on DMX is found on this DVD in a chapter called What is DMX 512? Data cabling is done in a serial fashion. All DMX devices have a DMX in and a DMX out plug. If we just hold it here for a second, you'll again notice the two kinds of plugs, 3-pin and 5-pin. Again, we are using the 3-pin. Now we plug the data link into the strobe's in connector, and we plug a new data cable in the out connector of the strobe. Always remember to go from out to in between devices. The next device in our data link is the smoke machine. By now, the benefit of serial linking and standard plugs should be obvious. It eliminates that nasty mess of cables. And again, the out signal from the strobe goes to the in plug of the smoke machine, and a new cable is plugged into the out connector, ready for the next device. And the same again, from out to in, and then connect a new cable. We do exactly the same with the two MX4 scanners. Seeing as the MX4s are identical, we're only going to show you how to connect the first one. So far we've connected the strobe to the smoke machine, to the Mac 300, to the scanners, but the order in which you choose to connect your fixtures is totally up to you. So that's the last MX4 connected. Now let's move on to the last device in the data link. Again, the procedure is just as before. The out cable from the last MX4 now has to go into the in plug, as shown here. Remember the terminator. It has a special purpose. It terminates the data link, and so has to be plugged into the out connector of the last device. The reason you might want to terminate the data link is to prevent information noise on the data link causing unwanted behavior of your fixtures and other devices. Once information has been through the data link, it should be eliminated or terminated, hence the name. Now we can begin plugging in the power cords. And here finally our setup with all physical connections made. You can run a little check on your system by turning on the Freekie. First though, before you do that, you should slide the faders 1 to 12 down to 0, like this. Slide the master fader all the way up, and the pitch fader halfway up. Now we can turn on the power and see if we get any response. The moving heads and scanners may respond to it by adjusting their positions. If they do not worry. Everything will be revealed in the next chapter, which explains how to configure the Freekie controller and DMX addressing.